Hi everyone, my name is Elizabeth Castro, and I'm going to be talking about my Psych Buster video and looking at two claims. The first claim is each person has a specific learning style. So what are some important terms that we need to know? First is, what does it mean to learn? So learning is to take in information and be able to recall it later, as well as relate it to other information and knowledge that we have. Now, what is a learning style? A learning style is a specific mode that works best for an individual to learn in a given situation. And I think we've all heard of some common learning styles that are out there, like I'm a visual learner or an auditory learner or a kinesthetic learner. And lastly, modes of learning. So this is different ways of teaching that deliver or cater to a specific learning style. So this is specific to the actual teachers that are delivering to the students. So these might be things like a linear versus holistic mode of learning, a visual or verbal, and a reasoning or insight-based teaching style. Now, some research showed, specifically this study on myth of learning styles by Rayner and Willingham, which kind of showed the origin of where we get this theory of learning styles. And this is because we can clearly see that learners differentiate between each other, and that therefore affects their performance. And that sort of motivates then teachers to want to take in these differences into consideration so that we can improve on our education. And so we can clearly see that students differ in their capacity to learn different areas of content. They differ in their interests, what they're interested in learning about, their background knowledge, so the different knowledge that they have that then they could relate to the other things that they're learning about. And then lastly, some students have learning disabilities, which can affect how they learn. Ultimately, this article concluded that we can see there are a certain number of dimensions like ability, background knowledge, interest that vary from person to person and therefore affect learning. However, the emphasis on learning styles, this sort of thing that came out of this recognition, is sort of not what we should be focusing on. It's actually sort of it's a cost. And instead we should focus on these important dimensions that we can see are differences, and sort of come up with the solution from there. The other thing is source is a part 2 in a series done by Stephen Chu, who's a psychology professor at Stanford University. And he looked at intentional versus unintentional learning and how that relates to deep and shallow processing. And what he found was that it's not so dependent on if you want to learn or not, if you have the desire to learn. Instead, the best learning, the most effective learning was based on the deep or shallow processing of information. So shallow processing, think of you're just like mindlessly memorizing terms. Whereas deep processing would look like relating those terms and information to prior knowledge that you have, or even how that information, those terms, is personally meaningful to you. So you're making deeper, more meaningful relational connections. And he found that was the only main difference that we need to focus on for the best kind of learning, which means, and our claim, each person has a specific learning style, this myth is busted. And let's see why. So we can see students learn differently from each other. And these differences are in the dimensions of ability, interest, background information that then affect how they learn. However, deep processing we see is the most effective way to learn. Therefore, students do not have specific learning styles. Now let's jump into claim 2, which is babies can only see in black and white. So some important terms to know are, what is vision? Vision is the ability to interpret the surrounding environment by using color and lighting. So how that works is we have cones in our eyeballs. And cones are a type of photoreceptor cell in the retina that gives us color vision. So we can see in the left image, the light spectrum from our environment comes in through our lens, and then it hits those cones, those sets of cones, and then would give us the ability to see color. Now, a dichromat means that you only have 2 sets of those functioning cone cells instead of the full 3, which results in color blindness. So an example of that would be the bottom right image, where we see the full color spectrum, where someone that has color blindness would only see 2 of those colors possibly. So some research that I've done. There was one study done by newborns, and 2 experiments were conducted, and it was really to see if newborn babies could discriminate between chromatic and achromatic stimuli. So chromatic would be, we see this kind of full spectrum of color. Achromatic is only black, white, and gray, and it really just has to do with the different hues and colors. And the result of these experiments was that newborns have some but limited ability to discriminate the chromatic, so the color, full color, from achromatic stimuli, so the black and white stimuli. Therefore, we could possibly say that they're dichromats or colorblind. But we see in an article by Renee Ali that babies are born with their full visual capacity to see objects in colors. However, just after birth, a baby sees in black and white. And that then as months go by, they can develop their color vision. So the claim babies can only see in black and white, I'm saying, is plausible, and here's why. So we see that cones give us the ability to have vision in full color, and dichromats are when 2 of those 3 cones function, resulting in color blindness. Babies are born with the full capacity to see colors, but just after birth, babies see in black and white. But as they develop, they begin to see in color. Therefore, depending on how old the baby is and where they are in their development, they may see in black and white. Thank you all for listening, and that's all I have for you today.